Good evening, UN Spacey Wolf Squadron. I'm your Wolf Commander Wolf 10. We're talking about Transformers actually today. It's been a long time since we've done this, and usually it's with me and the Gladiator of Kaon, Matthew Flynn. Say hello, Matthew.
Hello. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been here as well.
Oh, yeah. Far too long, buddy. I missed you.
Yeah, I've missed you too. I've missed everyone.
Well, quite surprised here. We're not doing this by just just me and you this time. We have the Warrior of Light, Final Fantasy Fan 12.
Greetings, YouTube viewers and fellow Final Fantasy fans. This is Final Fantasy Fan 012 here, and welcome back to another live stream on the UN Space Fleet War Squadron, which has been 2 weeks since the last one that we did here.
Yeah, about that. We'll
Mm,
cover that soon. We have the
right.
Deseret Bull, Redneck.
One shall stand, one shall fall.
Oh, that's good. That's excellent. That is really excellent right there. Anyways, so yeah, guys, I'm pretty sure I've said this multiple times in multiple streams that my vacation was actually pretty neat. I was in LA for 2 weeks and I had to visit family. Specifically, just there to watch my niece and nephew walk the stage and receive their diploma. And in 2 months' time, they'll be in high school. So here's to wishing them to stay focused and follow their dreams and hopefully get through high school because high school usually is the big kicker right there. And I'm pretty sure many of you guys remember your high school days, right?
Of course.
Yeah, I remember my high school days. I think that was, I want to
I
say
didn't
five,
realize
no,
I
not
needed
5 years,
firemen.
probably like 6 or 7 years by now. Or 8 years.
Hey, William.
We're talking about
We,
high school. I'm getting drunk. I'm not gonna have happy memories.
oh, we definitely gotta do that another time. We did do a school stream like
I was about to hear that going
last
in any
year.
sort of ways.
I think we did high school talk last year, or at least school talk, and talked about our high school life or something like that, or college life. Can't can't honestly recall what we did that stream. Or no, we were talking about getting into school or something like that. That was interesting. But yeah, high school was kind of hell for me, but not as hell as elementary. Elementary was like the worst. Anyways, this is mostly going to be the Gladiator Kaon's stream. So without further ado, you go ahead and start talking about what it is that you want to discuss, Matthew.
Yeah. So I have brought up two different topics that are connected. That's the lack of the extra content relating to Transformers other than the mainstream stuff, and just how sparse a lot of that is. Actually, even the mainstream stuff's kind of like vague in some places in terms of actually getting a hold of some. And then the other topic is how the multiverse itself works for Transformers. It doesn't really matter which one we start with because we're going to end up transitioning from one to the other or just going back and forth. So that's why it doesn't really matter which one we start with. I'm kind of leaning towards discussing how the multiverse works first, then talking about the lack of content. But I'm curious what you guys which way you guys want to do it.
I mean, this is pretty much like my first time ever talking about Transformers, even though I'm gonna be honest, I was not much of a Transformers fan because I was never really into it as a kid. I remember having the toys, which were based on the Michael Bay Transformer films, because I watched them since I was like I think I was like 5 when those movies came out.
Yeah, because the first one was 2007.
Right. Which, well, yeah. Oh wait, yeah. I think I was. Yeah, I think I was actually. Yeah, I was actually 5. But Yeah, but I just could not even get into much of the Transformers stuff. Like some of the other stuff, I was aware of them of the show. My dad has seen it. He had the toys. Um, but yeah, I was not much of a Transformers fan at all. Because at the time I was mostly into fighting games, but we're talking Transformers here, so
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is a Transformers fighting game.
oh, there
Actually, I think there's
is.
I think there's multiple because there was a PS2 Beast Wars game that was a fighting game, and then there's another game called Forged to Fight. I think that was a fighting game as well.
I mean, I thought there aren't there many Transformers games that are also beat 'em up games.
Not sure about beat 'em ups necessarily, but well, actually, I
I'm
suppose Devastation would count as a beat 'em up. Or the
Mm.
and I'm,
I sp-
I'm more familiar with those TV shows. I didn't really play any of the games except for the later games like War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron, and Devastation.
Wait, would that include the various comic book series as well?
I don't think I recall reading any of the comic books. Just mostly watched the series for a while. Then we got Beast Wars, and then Beast Machines, and of course I was familiar with the movie through reviews, but now I finally acquired it for Blu-ray. Um, as far as like the Bayformers movies, I owned the first movie, but I let my mom. I think I let my mom have that one because over time they started to get more hate, and they progressively became worse and worse.
Yeah, but still ended up making a bunch of money,
As
which
far
I
as
find.
as far as the only movie I own though now currently is still Bumblebee.
Oh, okay. I mean, a while ago I bought a 5 pack with all of the Bayverse movies because it's literally been years since I watched any of them, and I kind of felt the need to like watch through them and kind of because the last time I watched through those films was I think when they came out, and
Hmm.
basically after that I think I watched them maybe once or twice after they came out, and then for like multiple years I just didn't watch any of them.
Is this in concordance to the upcoming uh Rise of the Beasts that's coming out whenever?
And I believe actually Rise of the Beast was meant to come out this year, but it was pushed back to next year.
Yeah.
Although there is a part of that that's kind of like concerning for me, but not necessarily in like whether or not it'll be any good, but more of a case of the studio itself hasn't released any trailers or any promotional material for the film, despite the fact that it's like less than a year away from release, which I find very
Hmm.
odd.
That's good.
As,
That's coming from a lot of movie productions until we finally get a trailer and they finally come
yeah,
come around and start showing their cracks here and there.
yeah. I mean, all we really know currently about Rise of the Beast is it's going to have a couple of Autobots a couple of Autobots, the season one cast of Beast Wars, both Maximals and Predacons, and then a couple of unaligned Transformers called the Terracons.
That's too much.
Yeah. I have no idea what the story is or how these tie together or anything like that. There's literally very little information about that.
Mm.
For all we know, it could blend perfectly and be an amazing film, or it could be a massive mess and completely
Well, that
incomprehensible.
depends on the director, of course, and the writer.
Yeah,
And like I said, they should just have handed the reins over to Josh Knight because Josh Knight's like I said did superbly with Bumblebee. And I'm like, why don't y'all just let this guy just reboot the whole franchise and just make have him make it his own and just continue on from there.
yeah,
I don't see how how that's hard of a concept. I'm like really like Bay seems like he don't want to be anywhere near it anymore. He's doing his own thing, which is good. Go back to doing what you're doing like you always did, Bay. more power to you. You know, um, and just let Josh and maybe some other team of like-minded writers to handle Transformers at this point.
Yeah,
Now,
and
like I sent you a
specifically,
link to join us if you want to, if you got time, or if you're not too busy. Go ahead, Matt.
yeah. Oh damn it, what was I going to say? Oh yeah. As long as they hire directors who are like big fans of Transformers, then it should be should have be. It's not guaranteed that any movie will be good, but it's a step in the right direction at the very least. Yeah. So
That's all we can hope for.
yeah.
Donnie says Josh Knight is also a fan of Transformers who applies his knowledge to his work as seen in with Bumblebee. Exactly. But you're here to talk about lore and a certain few wikis that they get the lore wrong, or at least don't do enough of the lore, right? So
Yeah.
where are you going to start with that? I'll hand the reins to you.
I think I'll start with the multiverse and how it works. So Transformers is actually a unique franchise in terms of like having a multiverse, because like with Marvel and DC where they have like one primary Earth or primary continuity that all the others like kind of split off from. Well, Transformers isn't actually like that. Instead, Transformers kind of embraces the idea of the multiverse by not having one specific continuity be like the primary one, but rather by not having a primary continuity, just having each individual series be its own separate thing. And also the Transformers Collectors Club from the BotCon convention would also kind of tell stories within different continuities and tying them together and having different characters from different universes like hop around. And I think it's like some of the stories are um like one is a continuation of the actually no, the Collectors Club starts with a continuation of the Marvel comic, then it transitions to being I think about the Cybertron and a comic book adaptation of the Cybertron cartoon. Well, not so much adaptation, more just a comic book like version of like Cybertron as a whole, and then it goes to like other stuff and like bounces around to different universes and tells different stories. Yeah, and
On off topic, did you ever check out any of the web series, the War for Cybertron web series?
oh, you
That
mean
was
Siege, Rising Kingdom?
yeah.
Yeah, I've watched them.
I don't like the voice acting in those.
Yeah, that's the major problem I have with the voice acting. There are a
Continue.
couple other minor issues, or like maybe other, or they could be considered major issues as well. But like for me, the major issue is the way the voice actors delivered their lines.
Yeah, you know what? I might have to continue the series because I only stopped at the first season, and I'm putting
Oh,
that in
did you
air
stop
quotes.
after you finished Siege?
Yeah, and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna continue this because the voices are boring. But like, I can do that for you when we can return again to talk about that series. Since our previous encounters, we weren't really aware that there was going to be another Transformers series in the making.
Yeah, I
But
mean the
good.
current 29 Legacy apparently was going to have a Netflix show, but Netflix passed on that. So I don't know what's going on there, whether they actually are doing a cartoon for that specific line. But yeah, although now I think about it, the Legacy toy line has kind of is somewhat the inspiration that came kind of that I kind of came to in order to like come to this like topic, because the Legacy toy line kind of deals with sort of deals with a multiverse stuff, kind of. More in the sense of they're bringing different characters from different universes and basically giving those characters updated toys. Although they are mostly just G1 variations of G1 toys, or new versions of G1 toys, which seems to be Hasbro's go-to thing right now, even if they branch out and do something else. Yeah, so the Transformers multiverse is actually broken up into clusters, and each different continuity exists within like a cluster. But each cluster that contains a different continuity doesn't necessarily mean that in that continuity is like everything in that cluster is connected. It's more just like a shared theme. Like actually, I'll start with I'll just quickly go over I'll go over some of the clusters, but I'll quickly bring up the specific cluster I'm sure everyone will know about to some extent to kind of give
Hey,
you an
Al, how
idea.
you doing?
Hey, Big Al. Yeah, so the specific cluster that everyone's probably familiar or knows about, even if they don't know the name of, and that's the Primax cluster, which contains various G1 continuities. So that's the original Sunbow cartoon, the Marvel comic, the G2 comic that continues it, the Regeneration 1 comic that also continues from the Marvel comic but ignores G2, the IDW comics, Dreamwaves G1 comics. Basically, a whole bunch of different G1 comics exist within the Primax cluster, but that doesn't mean they're all like in continuity with each other. It's just they're in the same cluster as like a shared theme, essentially.
So wait, is the multiverse basically just like on branching paths, almost like still continuing on one thing, but yet they continue on other things on what if events turn out differently? Is that right?
Kind of. Essentially, so the Primax cluster is I would say probably the biggest cluster. There are a lot of like newer versions of like different G1 continuities, so that ends up being the biggest. But some of the other continuities that are not G1 specific are in like other clusters. So the Viron cluster contains the 2001 Robots in Disguise anime, or specifically the English version. The Japanese version of Robots in Disguise is actually in the Japanese G1 continuity.
In other words, Transformers applies the multiverse theory well by being smart with it, unlike how Marvel and DC have been handling it lately. Given by what he's saying, what Matt's saying, yeah.
Yeah, and like other continuities, like the Unicron trilogy, which I'm sure depending on how young the audience is, some people will probably remember the Unicron trilogy.
I remember Unicorn Trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah, the Unicron trilogy exists within the RX cluster, and that essentially goes for basically not just the cartoons, but any other media that is related to the Unicron trilogy, like the Dreamwave comic books that were out at the time, and also other comics that were made by other companies. I think there were a couple of UK exclusive comics and like packing comics and everything. And of course the Collectors Club Cybertron comic is also in the Oryx cluster. Although I suppose that technically overlaps with other clusters, which is actually that's how most the different clusters interact with each other, is they kind of overlap, and that's kind of how the different universes kind of cross over each other. Although there aren't
Just
that many
pause real quick.
crossovers. Yeah.
Matt. Dominic, I sent you the Stringer link via Twitter. If you like, once again, if you want to join us, feel free to. If you have anything to say about Transformers, continue, Matt.
Yeah, so there are a few crossovers between different continuities, like within the Transformers multiverse itself. Transformers has actually crossed over with other like franchises outside of Transformers. Because there was a Back to the Future comic book crossover, a Ghostbusters crossover, a Star Trek crossover, and a crossover with the Avengers.
Did they even do this with them, like some of the toys too? Like,
Yes, they did.
um,
There were
yeah, they even did this with
Marvel
some of the toys too.
Transformers
Like,
figures.
there's already. I mean, that's one of them. I mean, they also did one for even some of the movies. Like, there's one for the DeLorean and Back to the Future, which I think it's specifically based on the Back to the Future 2.
Yeah, yeah, because it has the Mister Fusion that you can blow onto the back of it.
Right. And there's also one based on the Ecto One. And what's cool about that one is that the Ecto One the hood of the Ecto One, the roof of the car of the Ecto One is actually the proton pack. That is so good.
Yeah, there is also when it comes to like crossovers with other franchises outside of Transformers, there is one that actually exists in its own separate cluster, and that's the Lucas cluster. And I'm sure you can probably guess what crossover that is.
Star Wars.
Yep.
Yep.
And there is no fiction tied to it except the bios on the back of the boxes of the toys. Because the bios for the toys basically essentially tells like or essentially alludes to just the Star Wars movie, like the stories of the movies themselves, except the ships in the series turn into mechs.
Oh yeah, I remember having one of them. It was I remember having one of them since I was a kid. It was Anakin's Jedi Starship from Episode 3.
Okay, I never actually had that one. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I have Luke's Snowspeeder and the Millennium Falcon that splits into Chewbacca and Han Solo.
Mm.
I actually still have them. They're in the toy box with all my other Transformers. Although I have since lost the little minifigures of Han and Chewie that came with them. I think I have the yellow Ninja Storm Power Ranger pilot in the Millennium Falcon because I think I had a Power Rangers thing with a very tiny Ranger that was the same size as them, so he fit in the cockpit. So I just put him in there. Yeah, and what was it? Yeah, so the actual in like the different crossovers within Transformers, like the ones where it's different clusters overlapping with each other, would be a G1 continuity overlapping with the Unicron trilogy, specifically the Armada comic book, features an appearance by G1 versions of Galvatron, Scourge, and Cyclonus. Although I have that comic, but I haven't actually read it yet, so I don't know exactly what happens or why they, because the story is called Worlds Collide. So I don't know why they have entered that specific universe.
Don Powell says Unicron trilogy Starscream remains the best incarnation of the character after he was given the Dinobot treatment. Anybody who remembers Beast Wars knows what he's talking about. Specifically, being Dinobot is essentially the. I have to say this that he's essentially the Vegeta of the Transformers universe, where he started off as a bad guy, or at least briefly as as an antagonist, and became part of the good guys side. He sided with the good guys, and more than once clashed with the heroes, specifically Optimus Prime. But ultimately, he redeemed himself, or at least he pretty much went out like a badass in one of the
Yeah,
penultimate episodes, where he basically sacrificed himself to preserve humanity in the place in the universe, or at least in the place
Yeah, because
of the
it's an early
continuity
camp of
of
proto-humans.
yeah.
Yeah, so basically, rivals then suddenly turned friends.
Later on, he comes back as a shell of his former self, but he regains his memory back through
Oh yeah,
a circumstance. He
the
became as a
Dinobot. Yeah, the Dinobot 2 clone.
yeah he became a as a Transmetal 2 clone.
Yeah,
That's when they introduced Transmetal number 2.
yeah. There is
Those,
actually
those
an unproduced episode called Dark Glass that apparently was going to explain how the original Dinobot's memories ended up in his clone, and I think it
mm,
was Rat Trap was going to like struggle to accept the fact that his friend's gone and take those memories and try putting them into the Dinobot 2 clone, but then it not working, or at least not the working the way he wants it to, and then he has to accept that his friend's gone.
mm.
But yeah, that episode was never made.
Now stop the press there, everybody. We have the Leia Valor with us, the lovely Leia plus size.
Good evening, fellas.
A
Oh, good
Hey.
evening.
Hey, good evening. Yeah, I had another appointment this evening, so I just got in. So I decided to stop by and say hello. But I also felt I don't have as much knowledge of Transformers, so I didn't think I could contribute much to the conversation. So I didn't want to bring it down.
I'm
I
sure
want.
you will. I mean, most of us are sitting here with the curator of all that is Transformers, the Gladiator of Kaon, Matthew Flynn.
Yeah,
So far we're only interjecting when when a thought comes to mind. That being said, like I said, we've only explained the essential of our knowledge. It's mostly it's only Matthew's stream tonight, so we're just in for him just saying what he has to say today, what was
yeah,
been on his mind, about certain things, lore wise, show wise,
yeah.
wiki wise. And once again,
And
I don't want to step.
and
I'm not going to
issues
step
that I have with the wikis.
that too. So it'll just be his show for now. We're just following along and only add in what he's saying with our own thing. So guys,
Yeah,
without for again, this is your floor, Matt. I'm stepping away.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, the movies they're also classified in their own separate cluster from the others. There is kind of a weird thing where Transformers Animated is very G1 inspired, but it's classified in its own separate cluster, separate from the rest of the G1 stuff. So, although I think the reason that's in its own separate cluster is because, despite that being very G1 inspired in terms of its visual design, it's actually got a different setting where it takes place like decades in or centuries in the future, and and also there is from what I can tell, Primus doesn't exist in the animated universe for some reason. So I don't know how the Transformers in that universe even exist. But that's I have a feeling that was probably something that was going to be answered if animated ever got a fourth season. But that's just a that's just an unfinished or an unresolved question, of which there are multiple. Yeah, the animated cluster is called the Malgus cluster. Although actually, now I think about it, now that I brought up Primus, there's actually one thing I need to bring up, and that's Primus, Unicron, and the 13 Primes, and a couple other beings, actually exist across the multiverse, and like they're like higher dimensional beings because the Collectors Club classified them as multiversal singularities, where despite how different some of them are, there is only like one of like Unicron and Primus and the 13 Primes. And I think, yeah, for Unicron and the 13 Primes, it's just one version of them that travels the multiverse. But Primus is the only one that's different, where he exists simultaneously in every universe. So that he can't really die in the conventional sense. Although, weirdly enough, if a version of Primus was to die in only one universe but not in any of the others, that would actually cause a paradox that would then collapse the multiverse, because he's the stability of the universe, and he holds everything together by existing in everything. So I find it weird that he doesn't appear to exist in the animated universe, unless he does, and they just haven't revealed that information. Yeah, and there is also the like when you mentioned the War for Cybertron games, because they're in continuity with the Prime cartoon and a couple other comics and one or two other shows. They actually exist within the Union cluster. Although I think originally the Aligned Continuity was meant to be one consistent timeline, but as it went on, different creators decided to do different things separate from that, and it caused the timeline to end up being classified as a lot more of a branching timeline rather than one consistent timeline. Because you have the Japanese show that ignores season 3 of Prime and takes that and kind of exists alongside that. So it's kind of a splinter timeline that kind of goes off into its own splinter timeline. Kind of similar to the original Japanese G1 cartoons, where they kind of split off from the main cartoon. I know. I shall bring up some of the more unique clusters in the multiverse. How about this? Okay, the Nexus cluster is one that contains an advanced planet called Axiom Nexus, which is basically a hub world where different Transformers universes can kind of come back or kind of enter and leave to a different universe and kind of use it as like a multiverse hub world, essentially. And it also contains the Transtech, which is an organization of Transformers who monitors the multiverse and documents everything that's happening. There is also
William asks, which animated series again? I know the original series didn't have Prime due to it being he was created in the comics during the show was on.
uh,
Maybe more context is needed.
oh, I think what he's referring to there is what I said about Primus, the fact that he exists in the multiverse, but he doesn't appear to exist in the animated universe. Specifically the show Transformers Animated is what I'm referring to there. I think he's kind of, because he's just said Prime, I think he's confusing the character of Primus with the character of Optimus Prime, or maybe a different Prime. That probably didn't quite help. That probably made it slightly more confusing, but I suppose you can tell me if
In
that made
any
it more
case, continue
confusing.
what you were saying.
Yeah.
Just continue what you're going over.
Yeah.
Let's get into the ones that the nitty gritty of what catches your eye, the wikis.
Yes. The Transformers wikis, there are specifically 2 wikis I know about, and that's the one that's just called Transformers Wiki, and then there's another one that's called TF Wiki, and both of them are run by Transformers fans, but they're a specific kind of Transformers fans where they don't really take the deeper lore seriously, because they see Transformers as a franchise as like a silly 80s cartoon, and they don't when they see because there are multiple instances throughout the wiki of them kind of bringing up information that is from, say, the Collectors Club, or from the or is from some more obscure content, and they'll bring up the information there, but they will either, at best, they will misrepresent what the actual, take that information and misrepresent it in some way, and at worst, they will just outright leave out critical information in order to color people's point of view on those specific
Can you give some
things.
examples on that front?
Let's see. I think. Okay. How about Unicron? So, because like what I said before about Unicron being a multiverse singularity, and that essentially all previous version, all previous, or basically any version of Unicron is classified as being a single being, despite some versions of Unicron having slightly different origins from other versions of him. Like the G1 cartoon version of Unicron has a very different origin to the Marvel comic Unicron, and there was some other stuff going on that kind of messed with like the meta fiction of like the Transformers multiverse. Because an event called the Shroud happened that basically strengthened the barrier between the different universes within the Transformers multiverse and eliminated multiversal singularities. And but the thing that annoys me is, in effect, specific versions of Unicron that have a different origin are now allowed to actually be separate versions of Unicron. So the cartoon version of Unicron is called the Primacronian Unicron, because the person who created Unicron in that continuity is called Primacron, and that's why he's called that. Well, that's why Unicron is called Primacronian Unicron. But because the different stories in the Collectors Club that have Unicron be a multiversal singularity, those haven't been erased. They still happen. So there are still versions of Unicron that fit into that universal singularity, or multiversal singularity. And the Transformers Wiki themselves, they don't classify which versions of Unicron fall under the multiversal singularity Unicron and which versions of Unicron don't fall under that. So all they really do is they list that he is a multiversal singularity, or that versions of him are that, but they don't go into specific detail of which versions. Like, obviously, the one that appears in the Collector's Club is a multiversal singularity, and we know the G1 cartoon version is not a part of that. But it's like, does that mean the Japanese G1 cartoon continuity version is separate, or is he part of it? And then you have the Unicron trilogy version. Is he connected to that? And it's like, it's very confusing, and the TF Wiki not actually going into detail and clarifying stuff like that makes it even more confusing and annoying. Yeah. Oh, and also the if like a multiversal singularity, if they was to like actually die, then that would actually destabilize the multiverse, because that's actually what happens with Unicron in the Cybertron cartoon, where his spark is thrown into an energon sun and then it collapses into a black hole.
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
And
There's an Energon son.
yeah, I think it was at the end of the Energon cartoon. I
Oh,
believe
I didn't see. I didn't get
Primus.
that far into Energon.
I won't spoil like too much of what's happening, but
No,
essentially,
you can't.
Unicron's spark is trapped within an energon sun, but because of his evil, it then collapses into a black hole. And basically, the point of the early point of the Cybertron cartoon is that the different Transformers traveling the universe to find the cyber planet keys, awaken Primus, and get him to then close the black hole before it swallows Cybertron and potentially the rest of the universe if it gets big enough. And the Collectors Club story, at the same time, also established that because of Unicron's place in the universe, him becoming a black hole actually has the potential to swallow the whole multiverse itself. And one of Unicron's heralds, a Decepticon called Ramjet, basically had this plan to basically kill Primus to then cause the entire multiverse to just be reduced to nothing, because I think he believed that his master would want his plan of all of the universe being consumed and being rendered absolutely nothing to be more of a preferable goal if he was to die, rather than try to revive him. And the Collectors Club also revealed that the Cybertron cartoon itself, the Autobots in that universe trying to stop the black hole, actually it actually revealed that them doing that actually wouldn't do anything, because obviously Unicron, he's a fundamental force of the universe, so him dying but not being able to and causing a paradox, essentially. The only way to really stop the black hole is to revive Unicron, in a different body, or in a different universe. So I suppose the Cybertron cartoon is technically pointless if you take into account the extra stuff, or the extra stuff from the Collectors Club. Yeah.
Anybody else want to add their 2 cents, or rather, what they're most familiar with, and maybe clear some things up that Matthew has a sense of knowledge of?
Well, for me, I have to be honest, and this could be usually embarrassing because Matthew's knowledge is very vast. But what I know of Transformers are the toys that the guys in my neighborhood used to collect and have, and some collect to this day. And they were part of the Gem Transformer Hour that I used to watch in the cartoons. So again, you have to forgive me, my knowledge is limited, where Transformers would do one half of the hour and Gem and the holograms was another half of the hour.
Yeah.
And then
Actually,
there was
I think Gem and the Holograms actually is in the same universe as the G1 cartoon.
Excuse me.
Because the specific Sumbo cartoon, the Sumbo Transformers cartoon, that is shares a universe with the 80s G.I. Joe cartoon, and I think Mask and Gem and the Holograms is also in that universe as well. I don't know if that necessarily makes Gem and the Holograms a part of the Transformers multiverse, or just overlapping with one specific universe. Not 100% sure if that's the case.
I'm not sure, Matthew, but I think you're right. I think they were done by the same animation studio. So all the teams that worked on those shows, like G.I. Joe and the Transformers, those same animators were used for Gem in the holograms. They were the same animators, the same studio that did their cartoons, and some of the actors that did the voice work for Gem and holograms,
and even the music.
Yeah, even the music were all switched around because, of course, we know that animation back then was expensive or cheap one, and they didn't have a lot of money to toss around. So a lot of the animation studios and artists and music and voice actors were all shared for those shows. And so you're not too far off. Yeah. You're not too far off, because I know I had to wait for Gem to come on. It would be Transformers, and then G.I. Joe, and then of course the Gem show. And I think all the reason is they were all Hasbro toys. So they were tie-ins to Hasbro. So Hasbro toys used those cartoons, of course, to sell all of those toys. So you had, the G.I. Joe and the Transformers, and then you had Gem for the girls. So Hasbro is part of Hasbro, the production. So yeah, they used, I think it's one of the first shows or first toy companies to use animation. I don't know if there's one beforehand, but they were the first to really use the cartoons to sell the toys. And that's pretty much what they did, because whatever you saw on these cartoons and Transformers, as you know, William, I'm sure you're familiar, were hot property back in the day, because the guys in my neighborhood had them and trade them and ring over, and I would see them. And one guy had a big case of them, of all different ones that they had. So those were really top sellers. So I could see why perhaps Hasbro put them all together in the same show, whereas us as the
Yeah.
girls, it was all about Gem and the accessories and the clothing and so
Yeah.
forth. And so that's my knowledge of, so I even though I don't maybe have the knowledge or passion that you have, I'm very aware of them, because there were other boys in my neighborhood that's everywhere in the neighborhood were the Transformers everywhere. They were hugely popular, as you may know. And then of course the Transformer movie, and I have to say the only one I know is the first one, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed the first one, and I thought it was fun.
When you say
So
first one, are you referring to the 86 animated one or the 2007 live action one?
2007 live action one. I do remember the 86 one, but I'm right now I'm specifically talking about the live action one, which I actually did enjoy. I really enjoyed that first one. I thought it was a good movie. I know for a fact that mostly nobody gave two squats about the storyline. It's mostly you're there to see the Transformers, right? You're there to see them. And for the most part, they did a good job, and I enjoyed it. I can't honestly say I have followed them the rest of the way. I mean, maybe you could tell me, but do you think maybe they made too many sequels? Or do you think they needed that many
Franchise
sequels?
like
that really endured. It's one of the few franchises that endured. The one that outbid it was the Fast series. Fast series is going on what, the 10th episode,
Yeah,
and
10th
there's another,
unnecessary one. Yeah, but
and
go
there's
ahead.
another one in the works, probably 11th or the de facto 10th. But like the series, the Transformers series itself just went to 5 episodes,
yeah.
and
Actually,
one prequel. Technically, I'm still going to call it a spin-off, because once again, don't know what they're going to be doing going forward with this next upcoming movie, or what it's really going to entail for the series as a whole. Stuff like
yeah,
that. I think they're going to just slide. To me, I think it's going to slide off with them just doing what I thought the Star Wars sequel trilogy should have done, or what Disney should have done with Star Wars, which is spun off to different stories, or spun off to different non-canon stories. And
yeah,
I think that's where they were, what they should have gone with Transformers 2 at the very least, because
yeah,
at this point, seems like nobody knows what to do with any property these days, aside from the Mission Impossible movies.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That
I
in the
agree.
past series, and what's another series that's enduring right now that's still going?
Let's see, the Fast series.
The Marvel
Is there...
Cinematic Universe.
That,
And
well,
and I suppose technically the DC movies.
DC is
Yeah.
the one that's in, probably, I mean, Marvel is going down, but DC is in the most trouble. When you say they don't know what to do with it, I really think Warner Brothers doesn't know what to do with it.
I'm talking about ones that are actually going through a through path, and just still going strong to this day, even though there's not much producing from it yet.
Mm.
Yet being the key
Well,
word.
see, here's the thing with me. Like we mentioned Transformers, and we mentioned Fast and Furious, Mission Impossible. The problem is they're still going, but the movies aren't getting better. They're getting worse with each movie that comes out. And I would like for a series to get better, but it seems like they're just pumping them out. So is
I
that be
actually know
considered as
another
an
one
issue?
that's going through the similar thing. Actually, two of them: Star Wars and Star Trek. What pretty much what we've all discussed here is pretty much like what the channel So Uncivilized discussed when he was talking about Star Wars with the Star Wars sequel trilogy that Disney made. It feels more so it's like the Benjamin Button, which that's pretty much primarily the problem with J.J. Abrams, really, where any new movie he would make, the worse he would pretty much get.
Yeah.
Like if any of you are familiar with the Benjamin Button, where if you just keep pressing it, the
Yeah.
worse it suddenly becomes.
I understand
I
that
just
now.
remember it being a movie starring not Matt Damon, Brad Pitt.
Right. mean,
and they
that's
had the White Witch and Galadriel in the same movie. They never met each other in their lives. I'm like, how in the hell did you guys make that possible? You had Galadriel and Jadis in one fucking movie, and Brad Pitt fucked both of them in that same movie. And then fast forward far into the future, you had those same two women in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. One a good guy, the other bad guy this time. Because remember back in the days, Tilda Swinton was the bad guy playing, and then you got Kate Blanchett as the good guy. But then when you get to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Tilda Swinton's the good guy now, and Kate Blanchett's the bad guy now. How the hell did time accomplish that? That's what astounds me about that event. That little minor event that I still have that living in my head rent free. It's the fact that those two prominent ladies went through the passage of time as two things merged in one thing, and then come out on the other end as something else, or at least the switch around. That's what astounds me right there.
It's a weird universe.
Yeah.
We live in
Well,
quite a universe. I will say that. I
uh,
mean, goodness gracious, we had Tilda Swinton and Kate Blanchett in one movie, and they came out. I wouldn't say it's because of Benjamin Button why they went that switch, but it's like you got those ladies in the same universe, one a bad guy, the other good guy. Whereas originally their roles were reversed in two prominent trilogies. One that actually had more stories to cover. The other one had completed itself and then branched off and did a prequel series.
hmm
Which, speaking of which, off topic, we still off topic.
yeah.
You the Narnia series needs a reboot. It desperately needs a reboot because that's if we really want something that's geared towards Christianity or anything that's geared towards heroes and heroism, and that would be the series that should get its just due. And I think the reason why it went downhill is because that should have been a sign of where our social climate was going, where nobody going to continue that franchise because of its Christian leanings, because of where the social climate was going towards Christians.
Oh yeah, the I agree with you. The Chronicles of Narnia, the first three movies that came out of that, I think were okay. I didn't think they were great, but they were due. And I think that, and one of all the problem was at that time, the Lord of the Rings was huge. And that's why I said that there was a time, I always tell people there was a time when another genre was box office before we got into Marvel and DC, and that was fantasy. And you had Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and Chronicles of Narnia. And I think the problem with the Chronicles of Narnia, along with what you said, Wolf, I do think the Christian themes, Hollywood had a problem with that because the Chronicles of Narnia is the sauce of those books and or films is the Christianity. But I also think they had a hard time competing with Lord of the Rings because Lord of the Rings was so huge and they were trying to get that audience, and not everybody from that genre jumped over into the Chronicles of Narnia. Because I read both of those series of books and I did see both films, but I have to admit, Lord of the Rings was done. You all know Lord of the Rings was done so much better. I mean, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is practically a classic at this point. But
Oh
they
yes.
tried, yeah. But the Chronicles movie, from what I've read, they use some of the leftovers from Lord of the Rings that they could get, but I think they could not compete with that, and I think they got lost, in that trying to get that audience that loved Harry Potter and loved Lord of the Rings to try to get over there. But I think Wolf also has a point because Wolf, when you say reboot it, that's going to be hard because Hollywood right now doesn't want anything with Christianity in it, or if it's in it, they will suck it out, and I fear they will flip that over just like they're about to flip over this woke of power that's coming to Amazon. So I wouldn't mind it rebooted, but it has to be true to the book and to the themes in that book. And Wolf is right. Hollywood has a problem with themes, with Christianity themes, because they want to suck it out. That's what they've done. That's what they already did it to Star Wars.
I think what we have to pay attention to is who's like involved in like the behind the scenes production and what they're saying about the series that they're working on and like how they talk about it.
Yes, I agree, because the woman doing the woke of power doesn't know diddly dog crap about it. The only thing, what they did is they kicked out the people who knew about it in the lore and Tolkien because they were
Let
smart.
me address Fizz real quick.
Sure.
He says, well, most don't believe in Christianity on a metaphysical or a logical level, so why would they go see those movies? Do you need to be a furry to see Zootopia? Or The Bad Guys? Or any other furry crap that's not really well written, or just there to just entertain the sugar-addled kids? Do you need to be a knight to understand King Arthur and his knights in Excalibur?
Or be English or from like this region of the world?
Yeah.
Do you need to be African to watch Shaka Zulu? And I'm not talking about being a black person. I'm talking about being straight up from Africa, the motherland. To understand Zulu or watch Zulu, do you need to be black to even watch Black Panther? So don't give me that crap about whether you're basically outright stating that the movie is only for Christians or just made to appeal to Christian masses. It's not meant to, yes, the story is written with a Christian allegory and all that stuff, but
I think the
it's
idea
made,
is it's made for a mass market but respects Christians and their belief.
no shit. But what I'm saying is that you're playing into their ideas right there if you're thinking like that, because I never knew about the Christian allegories about Narnia until somebody pointed that out to me, or at least when I went around to wiki the allegories, and even then that didn't even bother me.
Like, the Chronicles of Narnia is not made by Pureflix, just so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, and I'm not even gonna get into that. I'll get into that some other time. But yeah, it's like bro, calm down.
But here's my question. Here's my question about. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, okay. But if you say reboot the Chronicles of Narnia, who are you about to have for the cast for the characters? Like, who are we gonna cast?
That will be tricky because you will definitely have to have British actors playing those characters.
I agree
And
100%.
who's hot in the British market right now? Because the only people I ever knew was the original actors and actresses that played the kids prior to the trilogy itself.
And that's that's the challenge. You've got to get, well, I think in this case you may have
And
to go for newcomers, because they got to be, it's they got to be young to play the pensive, I think that's what their names are called, the children.
Pensy.
The pensive children, you have to start them off young if you want to make this a franchise, so they can grow into those characters. So you try to think of who are the best young. Well, let's say the like Liam Neeson was the voice of the lion.
Aslan, yeah.
Yeah, Aslan. So
that'll be a definite tall order to replace him. Other than only person I could think of on top of my head to play Aslan is Colin Firth.
Okay, I can go with that. Yeah, the voice. Yeah,
But the question is, can he talk like a lion?
you have to talk like a lion, but you have to have this almost spiritual wisdom with it. You got to be able to combine both.
I'm sure he can
Because
nail
that's what
it.
part of Aslan is. Aslan, yeah, you have your lion. You're not doing Simba from the Lion King. Aslan is almost like a spiritual guide in a way. So that actor's got to be able to do both. And I think Firth can pull that off. I don't know if there's anything Colin Firth can't do, because I've watched a lot of his movies, and I think
Martin Merlin from Kingsman will probably nail it too.
yeah, I know who you're talking about. Has a good voice. Yeah, he has a good voice. So You got that. You got one of them for
I'm gonna
the
try to
adult
attempt his
characters.
voice real quick. Give me a sec. We're gonna go. We're gonna. Don't worry, guys. We'll take it back to Transformers. Dominic has a comment about Transformers, but we'll take it
Okay.
back pretty soon. But humor me on this one. Humor me. Give me a sec. How does he
I
sound like? He's got this very low, deep voice, don't he?
Yes, he has a very low, deep voice because it has to be almost ancient, not old, but just that his
Talking about
voice
the
like
actor.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, the actor doesn't have to be super old. I mean, it has to be, he's been around for thousands and thousands of years with the wisdom that he has.
So I'm gonna try Martin as Aslan. Do not cite the deep magic to me, witch. I was there when it was written. That's as best I can do.
That's not too bad. You still got
To the
that little
glist,
wolf in you, though.
to the glistening sea, eastern sea, I give you the Queen Lucy the Valiant. To the great western wood, King Edmund the Just. To the radiant southern sun, Queen Susan the Gentle. And to the clear northern sky, I give you King Peter the Magnificent. If the witch knew the true meaning of sacrifice, she might have interpreted the deep magic differently. That when a willing victim who has committed no treachery is killed in a traitor's stead, the stone table will crack, and even death itself will turn backwards. Yeah, something close to that.
That's something close to that. Yeah, that's close to that. Not bad. It's still the wolf spirit is still in you. I don't know if you can get to the lion, and then you have now who do you want for the witch?
Oh, maybe
And then we'll
Kate
get back to
Blanchett,
transport.
but then,
Huh?
then again, she's showing her age. Maybe somebody young. You have to.
Well, see,
I
that's
have
the
to look at
thing.
her depiction.
Well, how young are you going? Because she's not a teenager, or I think she's mature, but not. I see what you're saying, but I don't see her as maybe she's not Elsa from Frozen, so so I see her as because she's got to be kind of scary too. You know, she has to be scary, but I don't know how old you're thinking you should go with her. Not too scary, but enough to you know make sure the other people don't disobey her. So maybe so. Yeah, I can't think off the top of my head right now for the the, the White Witch, but yeah, I see what you're saying. But I don't think you have to go too young because you're not going. You're not. She's not like I said. Don't think Elsa from Frozen. She's
Yeah,
far from it.
she would just have to be her mid-20s. At best, what I
See,
could think of as Bella Thorne.
middle,
Bella
middle,
Thorne's
middle.
American. She's
Yeah, it's got to be
American.
English. Yeah, it has to be an English actress.
Matt, before we continue on the Transformers, who is hot in the British acting market, actress-wise?
I'm not actually sure. I haven't really been paying attention to like British actresses. I think
Moving on then.
I think most of them are working for like within like the BBC or ITV. You know, the uh, the woke companies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Actually, I think most British entertainment nowadays is in the woke was coming from the woke companies, and I just don't watch any of the shows they make because most of it's either really bad, really immoral, or possibly
Hmm,
both.
I
Same
see.
thing over here, buddy. Same thing over here in
Yeah,
America.
I think they got that from us though. Fucking
Yeah.
plagiarism.
yeah, yeah. That was like the American, well, maybe not American specifically, but like that element of American entertainment is kind of imported back to here.
Anyways,
And
Dunnick says to tie it all back to Transformers, each entry made into the franchise continues a legacy. They either improve areas from the previous ones or succeed in some shape or form. Succeed, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is actually like a detail that I actually mentioned on Matchstick's Cultural Fortress, because I don't remember which one it was, but I talked about the Transformers aligned continuity on there, and in that I mentioned that there are these different like things from different parts of Transformers from different series, like the different primes from like one from the Marvel comic, one from the two or three from the Unicorn trilogy, and basically in line continuity itself basically took elements from other previous continuities and blended them together into a new thing.
Well, let me
And
ask you this, Matthew. I don't know if you've seen all of the Transformer live action movies, but can I ask you, as each movie progressed, did you think that franchise got better? Did the movies get better to you, or did they lose, or they started to lose what it was all about?
I think they started okay with the 2007 movie, then they went downhill with the second movie. They kind of stayed at that level for the third movie. Then they went up in quality for the fourth movie, or at least I think they went up in quality for the fourth movie.
Okay.
And then for the fifth movie, they went right back down again.
Yeah,
And
because
then
the
they
last
went
one.
back up and they went back up in quality for the Bumblebee movie. And then it's a
Yeah,
mystery whatever will happen with Rise of the Beast.
okay, so you like the Bumblebee movie?
Yes. I also enjoyed the fourth Bay movie, Age of Extinction.
Okay, is that the one with Mark Wahlberg?
Yes, that's Age of Extinction, and then the fifth film, Last Night. Both of those two have Mark Wahlberg as the main character. And
Okay.
I actually like his character in the fourth movie. He's a
His
much better
characters.
human protagonist than Shia LaBeouf's character.
It begs
Mm-hmm.
the question: why did he not make Sam an adult? I know what his reasoning
Yes.
was, but it's like, again, why couldn't you have made him into an adult? Because boys do follow adult men. We've been
Yeah,
doing it for much of our lives. I give you several examples: Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone,
Mm-hmm.
Carl, Carl
Kurt
Weathers,
Russell.
Kurt Russell, Roddy Piper, Keith David, Ernie Hudson. We didn't need no young cat to fall after.
I think Keith David might have voiced a Transformer, or I'm possibly thinking of a different black actor. There have been multiple black actors voicing Transformers. It might not be It might be Keith David, or it might
No,
be someone else.
Keith David was never attached to any Transformers movies that I know
I
of.
don't. Oh, I didn't specifically mean movie. I meant like just TV shows and in
Oh
general,
yeah.
like
Right.
just the
Cartoons.
general shows themselves, rather than one specific thing.
Right.
I think Michael Clark Duncan. I'm pretty sure he's voiced a character in Transformers.
Kevin
Yeah,
Michael,
I think he was Bulkhead in Transformers Prime.
and there was also Kevin Michael Richardson, who might as well
Yeah,
just be the big husky, big muscly character voice actor all the time.
yeah. Oh,
Uh,
and
So,
who was it? For some reason I'm thinking Michael Dorn, but I know that's not the right actor I'm thinking of.
are you talking about Worf?
No, Wolf's brother. I forgot the name. Tony Todd. That's it.
Tony
Tony Todd.
Todd.
He's voiced a character in Transformers as well. He voiced Dreadwing in Transformers Prime.
Be my victim.
That's actually not too far off to how he sounds in the show.
Well, he was. If I recall, either him or Michael Winco was Angor Rot in the Troll Hunter series.
Yeah. Oh, I just remembered. Tony Todd he also voiced the Fallen in the second Bay movie.
Uh,
so, so
now you're tickling my fallen voice. Okay, I got flex now.
Yeah. Oh,
um,
fun fact: because the Fallen is a multiversal singularity, all different versions of him are technically the same version of the character, despite being in different continuities. So the Fallen, even though mainstream audiences know him from the second Bayverse film, he actually appeared in Transformers before that because he was in the Dreamwave War Within the Dark Ages comic book. And
Hmm.
actually, his origin is basically unchanged because it's literally the same version of the character. Although people who only watched the Bay films probably won't even realize that.
I want to go back to what Wolf said. You said, how come the Shia LaBeouf appeared to become a man? Are you saying that in these films we need to watch the character mature into
No, no,
manhood?
no, 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 no. Why couldn't he, or specifically, why couldn't Lennox be the main character?
That's exactly
Ah,
what I
I
was
see.
thinking.
Okay, now I
I
follow
actually
you.
enjoyed his character in the first movie, and then in
Yeah,
like the second
everything
and
that he
third
was
movie,
doing
he
had
kind
had
of
my attention. I didn't care. I didn't give a damn what Sam Witwicky was doing that much, other than, he just going through the shenanigans with the Autobots. But the Autobots don't barely even connect with him aside from Bumblebee. Whereas Lennox, he ended up forming a group with the Autobots. The third movie
yes.
showed them that they were learning new ways of fighting the Decepticons, and I'm like, why is he not like he's protecting the world from the movies obviously forgot about his wife and child, which was already
Oh
established in
yeah,
the
because
first
they
movie.
disappeared after the first film.
Yep,
Actually, I
after the
think it
first
wasn't
film,
even after the first film. I think it was just late in the first film. They just sort of vanished from the film.
well, no, he barely even talks about them, barely in later films. And like I said, when he bring up
Yeah,
the wife and
now I
child,
think about it, all I remember is him talking about his family at the beginning,
it's like
and then I think
whenever I
maybe a little bit
converse with people
later
about
on, and I
him,
think that's it.
whenever I converse with anybody about him, when I get to his wife and child, I always end it. Why is he not the main character?
That's actually what I was thinking when I watched the films like a couple weeks ago. Yeah, and also Mark Wahlberg's character, Cade Yeager. After watching the fourth movie for like was it a second or possibly third time, I actually noticed that Cade Yeager, he's actually a really cool character.
Well,
He's
he's a
also
dad
the
for
only
one.
human main character that I've seen who not only actively fights against a transformer, like all he has is an alien gun and that's it. And in like the final battle, he's fighting Lockdown, like actually he, occasionally taking cover, but like there
You
are
said
multiple
my
points in
face
that fight
Joker
where he
is
actually
dead.
comes out of cover and like shouts at Lockdown, gets his attention and shoots at him. And even when Lockdown is in front of him trying to stab him, he's like rolling out the way and like dodging and trying to avoid his attacks. He's like that's the only time I've seen a normal human character in these movies actively fight against a transformer. They should probably have every reason to fear.
Mm-hmm. No, it says Tony Todd killed it as the fallen. Lance was my favorite character of the Bayformers films. He should have been a mentor to his he should have been the father of Sam, not his doty dad.
Yeah, his
Or
Mother
dirty
have him
bastard.
be a
dad
version
says
of
poorly
Sparkplug.
written.
Yeah, because in the Marvel comics, Sparkplug was a Vietnam veteran, and I don't think that backstory ever comes up in the Bayverse films. So we don't actually know what Sam's father in those films actually did before like the actual films.
Mm-hmm. My master, I failed you on Earth. The Allspark is destroyed, and without it, our race will perish. Oh, you have much to learn, my disciple. The cube is merely a vessel. Its power, its knowledge, can never be destroyed. It can only transform. How is that possible? It has been absorbed by the human child. The key to saving our race now lies within its mind. Well then, let me strip the very flesh from its bone, and you will, my apprentice, in time. For my millennia, I have dreamed of my return to that wretched planet where I, too, was once betrayed by the Primes. I called my brothers. Only a Prime can defeat me, and now only one remains. Optimus, he protects the boy. Then the boy will lead us to him, and revenge will be ours. Yes, the boy will not escape us. We have him in our sights. Without the Energon, the hatchlings will keep dying.
Okay, very good. Yay.
Okay, you get that's a 4 out of 10 from Leia.
Yeah, I like that
No,
impression.
that was
of,
actually very good.
of both,
No,
both
that's like
Fallen and Megatron.
And
yeah,
Starscream
Oh,
to
he,
boot.
that's a 7 out
actually,
of
what
10.
do
Yeah,
you think
like I
of
said,
Hugo? Actually, Wolfie, what do you think of Hugo Weaving when he voiced Megatron?
I can smell you, boy. Maggot.
Hugo
Uh,
Weaving voiced Megatron. I didn't know
yes,
that.
he did.
Yeah, in the first three
Oh, okay.
movies.
The
I
first three
did not
movies
know
until he was
that.
replaced by
He-
by
Frank
Frank
Welker in Age
Oz.
of
Sorry, Frank
Extinction.
Welker in Age of Extinction this time as Galvatron.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
great
in
job. I
Age of
didn't.
Extinction, Galvatron actually sounds more like he did in the '86 movie than Frank Welker originally did in season 3 of the cartoon.
Well, Hugo Weaving does have a great distinctive voice. I can
Yeah,
see why they chose him.
yeah.
He does
I do
have a
find it
really.
mean,
weird they got Peter Cullen back for Optimus in
I'm gonna
those movies, but
I'm
didn't
gonna
bring
say
Frank Welker back as
that
Megatron as well. I think the reasoning was that he sounded too old, but personally, I think that's bullshit. But that's just me.
I do agree. I do agree there.
Especially since he was voicing Megatron in Transformers Prime around the same time those movies were being made. And in Prime, he is. I think the
Hmm.
Prime version of Megatron is where Frank Welker sounds the best as the character.
You have no spark. That's because I fight with no fear.
Oh yeah, I think the line is it's like you have no soul. It's like that is why I have no fear. That is probably my favorite line in the movie.
Yeah.
And also any line from Lockdown. I also like his character as well.
We will meet again, Prime, for I am reborn.
Yeah. And just like in the Unicorn trilogy, he was suddenly Megatron with no explanation in the next film.
Oh goodness. Don't even get started on that. This
Yeah.
is that right there was
I
they
liked
just
the
stopped
design of
caring.
Megatron in that film. I liked that he actually
Like
had a
even
fusion cannon on his arm in that film, like he was supposed to, but he mostly didn't
even
really do much.
even Barricade came back, and I'm like, when were you? Where the hell were you in all these freaking movies?
Yeah. Because he
I'm
was
like,
in the
you still
first
alive?
film. Yeah, he was in the first film, then he disappeared near the end, reappeared in the third film, disappeared again, and then came back in the fifth film in a different body with a different voice. And I think he had a slightly different personality as well.
Oh yeah.
Probably could have just had him be a different character, honestly.
I mean, they always did that a lot in these films. Like even Blackout came back as someone else
Oh yeah,
in the second film.
um, Grinder, I think was his name. Although
Yeah, like
they never said his name in the movie. I think it was only credited as Grindor. So I think if you ignore if you don't pay attention to the credits and you ignore the external like tie-in comic books, then he's basically you could just assume he's Blackout. Yeah, the tie-in
humans
comics
do
for the
not
Bayverse
deserve
movies
to
really
live.
help them.
They deserve to choose for themselves. Then you will die with them. Join them in extinction.
Yeah,
It's you
the
and me,
tie-in. Oh,
Megatron. No, it's just me, Prime. At the end of this day, one shall stand, one shall fall. You shall fight. You still fight for the weak. That is why you lose.
Okay,
Is it fear
uh,
or bravery that compels you, boy? Give me the spark and I'll let you live as my pet.
okay, now are you finished with the impressions?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, the tie-in comics books for the Bayverse films, they really helped tie the films together. Although it's kind of a shame the tie-in comic books only like half of them are available to buy. The other ones, for some reason, haven't been collected any kind of collected edition for some reason. So your only option is to search down individual issues, which is kind of annoying when that happens.
Well, what was the other question? So back to my question. I was waiting till you finish. So movie wise, do you think this franchise could? Are they making another one? I think I heard a rumor.
Yeah, it was
Rise of
about
the Beast.
7 or 8 months ago. The Rise of the Beast movie went into production. It was meant to come out this year, but then Hasbro delayed the film to next year.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's
Was it?
as far as I'm aware, Rise of the Beast is meant to be a sequel to Bumblebee, but they haven't released
Ah,
any plot details or trailers or any promotional material whatsoever for the film.
see, I hate
Although,
when they do that. Why do they
yeah,
not want to give? You don't have to tell everything, but at least tell you what the plot is, so if you could get a little
yeah.
excited.
The only thing for Rise of the Beast that's actually available are the toys the toys that were meant to advertise the film, because Hasbro they were actually put into production to then be released when the film comes out, when the film was meant to come out this year, but because the film was pushed back, they couldn't change the date of when the toys for the film were released. So we have the situation where toys related to a movie have come out before the movie has come out. So you can actually buy Rise of the Beast toys now, but the movie isn't even out yet.
I find that odd. Releasing the toys
Yeah.
before the film comes out?
Kind of like Power Rangers 2017. By the way, the brilliant star that shines through the night, the steel convoy that transports justice. Rise up, man, stands before you. Rise up, chop! Rise up, kick! Cheese, white, hey, whoo,
And there's your entry, Professor Man. Yeah, it is kind of weird. I just want to know. See, I'm surprised this franchise is still going. Now, maybe I'm wrong, or I don't know how it works, but I just feel the movies just did not get better. Maybe Bumblebee in the latter two that you mentioned when Mark Wahlberg saved it. But that's why I asked you, Matthew,
No,
do
it
you think
was
the
going to
movies got
continue
better?
on if everybody wasn't, you know, how can I best say this without personality disorders. I mean, you had Megan Fox shooting her
Yeah.
mouth off about Michael Bay. You had
Yeah.
Shia LaBeouf with his bag of kittens in his head. I mean, it didn't even do
Yeah.
wonders for that Victoria's Secret model that replaced Michaela in third
Oh yeah,
movie.
Well, she couldn't act.
Rosie Huntington Whiteley, I think that's her name.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, she couldn't act.
I mean, she was in Mad Max Fury Road where she did excellent in that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I mean, it was. That was her first film debut. At least I think that was her first film debut,
Yeah.
which I'm going to give her some leeway on. But she was not that bad in Fury Road. I mean, her role was to die in that movie, but she did that really well.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was meant to be a joke, but okay.
No, I got you.
This is probably very telling of Michael Bay, but the first thing we see of Rosie
Carly.
Huntington Whiteley's character in the third film is a close-up shot of her ass. It's literally the first thing we see of her.
I mean, he
It's not
appeals to my
bad. It's
sensibilities.
not a bad thing. I don't
No,
have a
I'm just
problem
saying
with
he
that.
appeals
But
to my
like,
sensibility. The best way to introduce a woman in a scene is always through her legs.
Well, this movie
her
is
ass.
this movie is targeted towards boys, so
yeah.
I
And as
assume
Michael
that
Bay
he
has
wants
said,
to,
targeted at
He
12-year-olds.
gives that same treatment to
Yes.
the men, so the ladies are not alone from his films with doing that. So
Yeah,
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, the human characters in Michael Bay movies, they're all like attractive. He makes sure they're all attractive, regardless
Yes.
of
Yeah,
whether they're
he
male
ain't
or
no
female.
slouch, especially that China woman in the fourth film.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, well, like you said, like you both said, Final and Matthew, the films are targeted towards boys, especially 12-year-old boys, high school age. And you guys, you want your toys like your Transformers, and you
Bullshit.
want your
Girls like
beautiful
Bumblebee all the
ladies.
same. Thompson appeal to boys.
there are
Fuck
actually
that
female
noise.
Transformers fans.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
trust me.
I don't
Like,
quite
I
know
know.
exactly how many female, like how many female fans of
oh, I'm
Transformers
sure there's
there
a
are,
lot
but
because I've seen some pictures of these OnlyFans girls. I saw some Bumblebees here and there.
Yeah, I mean, Bumblebee is like the big, like audience or big general audience appeal character.
Yeah, but never mind. I'm not gonna get into that. I was gonna say then the girl, she was a tomboy, but each to his own. Tisk tisk. That
No,
because
no,
that's
no,
what.
no, 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 no. The level of lady quality in the Bay films deteriorated after the third film because you came from a Victoria's Secret model to the chick from the last Airbender who played Katara, playing Kate's daughter, and her acting did not improve at all in that movie. Same thing. I'm surprised she was still that short because how far away was the last Airbender before Age of Extinction came up?
Age of Extinction was 2014, and the last Airbender was 2010, I think.
I believe so. Yeah, yeah. I'm like, bruh, she sure didn't round up that much, did she? And then later on, you got what's her face that played Dora the Explorer sometime later in why am I
I
blanking on it?
don't know all the
Last Night,
actors.
the one girl that played in Sicario 2 was actually an excellent actress in there, but was terrible in Last Night. Eloise like Bumblebee. See, there you go. You're one female that loved the Transformers.
Oh, it's no doubt in my mind that there are some female fans, Transformer fans out there. I'm not doubting that.
Yeah.
I'm not doubting that one bit. I was just saying, what is the Michael Bay formula, particularly for
You want a piece of me? You want a piece? No, I want two. They killed the Negro bot. That's all I always say. Oh, they killed the Negro bot. And then in the third film, they killed the Clint Eastwood bot.
Yeah.
Why y'all always killing my favorites? And then later they kill House. In the fourth film, they kill Ratchet.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because his spark is ripped out by lockdown.
Yep. It's like why, man? Why y'all doing this now? Why are you doing this now? Why you starting killing them off? And then you replace them with other characters I don't even care about. John Goodman bot
Yeah. And
because he was Big
Crosshair,
Lebowski.
and they introduce a movie version of Crosshairs, who is
Mhm.
green instead of red and blue, and isn't a target master for some reason.
Who also got the voice of Jason Statham for some reason.
Yeah. And they included Drift, and he was given a goldish yellow face,
Hmm.
and also he's voiced by Ken Watanabe.
Oh yeah. The samurai bot that's
Yeah.
apparently a what they called them in the Bumblebee movie.
Triple changer?
Yeah,
Is
he's
that
a
what you
triple
were?
changer.
Yeah. Weird enough, he only does that in one scene of Age of Extinction, and none of the toys were created to be triple changes, because there were
Hmm.
either toys of him where he turned from robot to helicopter, or a separate toy that turns robot into car. And there was, it's kind of weird. And I don't think he ever triple changes in the fifth movie whatsoever.
Yeah, we never did get Ultra Magnus. We did get Jetfire, who was an old bum, and a Decepticon for some reason.
I mean, that's actually part of Jetfire's his overall general arc across the multiple different versions of him, because he starts out as a Decepticon, changes size to the Autobots. I suppose the only exception is the Shattered Glass version of Jetfire, where it happens in reverse.
Hmm. And he was wasted. Just died
Yeah,
at the end of the Fallen.
yeah, and all of his parts combining with Optimus to make like a Jet Optimus upgrade, which I'm pretty sure is a reference to Armada, because in the Armada cartoon, Optimus did combine with Jetfire in that show.
Yep. There was also that Robots of the Skies anime where Ultra Magnus tries to steal from Optimus.
Oh yeah,
What
he
was he
tries
trying to
stealing
take?
the Matrix from him.
Yeah,
and
and
then
they
they
end up
learn that they
combining.
can combine into like a super mode.
Yep, since they were brothers.
Yeah, I think that's the only version of Ultra Magnus where he's actually like Optimus's brother. I
And
think
a rival.
other versions they kind of allude to him being more of brothers in arms rather than literally biological brothers.
Right.
Out of curiosity, Wolfie, do you know about any of the non-Transformers like franchises that exist within the Transformers multiverse?
No.
Because okay, yeah, so those are the other Takara Tomy toy lines that aren't Transformers, but do technically exist within the same multiverse because they're in the Simon cluster, which is actually the oldest cluster. Because that comprises Zoids, the Brave series. What was the other one? Staria or whatever it's called. Yeah, there's this this simplified version of this simplified toy line that's kind of an offshoot of Zoid. I think it's called Staria or something like that. Yeah. Oh yeah, and also Diaclone and Microchange, which are the original toy lines that were brought over to America and converted into Transformers. And then
Well,
Takara in Japan cancelled that line, imported Transformers back to their market, and then just continued with that. And I think possibly 4 or 5 years ago, Takara then rebooted Diaclone with a newer version of it. And annoyingly enough, those newer Diaclone toys are
Just
ridiculously
to
expensive.
pump the brakes on what we're talking about. One of these days, Matthew, we need to talk extensively about Beast Wars. Because I
Yeah,
know we
definitely.
talked about it briefly in our Transformers stream. I don't think
Yeah,
we actually
yeah,
went.
when we went through the shows. We only
Yeah,
kind of briefly touched on different parts of the different shows.
yeah, we need to pull a Schooner Tuna and me when it came down to the X Men Evolution series, and just go by season by season. Oh
Yeah,
man, I gotta go. That means I gotta rewatch that whole series all over again. Then
yeah. Okay, I have one more of the universal clusters that I'm going to bring up. Then I'm going to switch gears and go to and start talking about the
uh, just to let you know,
yeah,
the format has changed since the start of this year, since my workload. So I can give you another hour to cover all that. Then we'll start wrapping it up.
yeah. Hopefully, it shouldn't take too long for me to because I'm going to switch gears to the other topic about the whole different more obscure content being either really difficult to find or impossible to find. But first, first before I jump over to that, I'm going to bring up one more universal cluster, and that's the quad wall cluster, which has Transformers in that specific universe, but they're not living Transformers; they're toys, because the quad wall cluster is the real world, and it's also the quad wall cluster is incredibly difficult to cross from any specific dimension to the quad wall cluster, or the other way around. So yeah, the real world is technically a part of the Transformers multiverse as well, which, if I'm not mistaken, Marvel and DC kind of do that, don't they? Because I swear there's an Earth in the DC universe that's technically the real world, and I think it's the same for the Marvel as well.
I mean, yeah, Marvel is pretty much like set more in a grounded setting. In fact, 90% of it is pretty much in New York because that 90% of their cast is either from or lives in New York. DC is pretty much like their own cities, like Star City, which is where the Flash is, or of course Metropolis,
Yeah.
Gotham.
I wasn't referring to like the main universes. I mean I'm pretty sure there's an Earth in like the DC multiverse that's technically classified as like the real world, like as in not real world as in realistic. I mean real world as in like the world we live in.
Wait, there should be one character that lives in New York in the DC universe. I forgot. I'm not sure who it was though. I think it was made by the same guy who did the writing for the Death of Gwen Stacy in 1975.
I actually don't remember. I kind of know what you're talking about. I don't quite remember though.
Yeah, and he did that to a specific character that he did for DC. Forgot who it was though. I'd like to say Firestorm, but probably not. Maybe it's somebody else.
Yeah. Okay. I am now going to switch over to talking about the outside of the mainstream comics and cartoons. There's a serious lack of Transformers content being made widely available to everyone because like how with DC, how they are absolutely terrible at releasing trades or omnibuses of various comic book runs, and Marvel's a little better at that currently. Well, when it comes to Transformers, they are absolutely atrocious at this. Like the mainstream stuff is mostly all you get because like you can get a hold of the original Marvel Transformers comic. You can get a hold of most of the Generation 2 Marvel comic. There's also the UK G2 comic, which is also has been reprinted and collected, but only really in UK exclusive releases rather than worldwide releases. And what else is it? Yeah, you also get most of the Dreamwave comics. I think IDW Comics is the only one where they've released pretty much everything that they've made in some form. But because IDW are the ones that currently hold the license, they're the ones who can reprint older series from other companies, like with Dreamwave. Except for whatever reason, they haven't released. There's like multiple Dreamwave comics that IDW just haven't reprinted for whatever reason, because they released a reprint of the Armada comic, one volume of the Energon comic, and then the rest of the issues are just haven't been collected. Dreamwave's G1 continuity, some of that has been collected, like the first two miniseries for their G1 comic, and then the monthly ongoing series wasn't collected. And also their War Within trilogy that they made that was technically unfinished because Dreamwave went out of business. That's only been half collected because if I turn my camera on, this is a UK exclusive book called the Definitive G1 Collection that collects essentially various G1 comics, whether it be the Marvel ones or IDW, Dreamwave, like basically all of the mainstream ones. And this is Dreamwave's War Within comic, the first 6-issue War Within miniseries. They also released a second one that has the War Within the Dark Ages, which is the second part. But the third part of the War Within, called the Age of Wrath,
Oh, I
that
see you grew a
one,
nice beard.
yeah, it also has a cover right here. So there's like 80 of these hardcovers, and when you put them all next to each other, they create like an actual like image across the cover, or across the spine, I should say. I only have this one. For some reason, they're difficult to get a hold of. For some reason, but yeah, the Age of Wrath only lasted 3 issues because Dreamwave went out of business before they could finish it. And those 3 issues of that last part of the War Within Age of Wrath hasn't been collected whatsoever. Individual issues is your only option to get that. And actually, I think. Jesus Christ. And now I'm dropping stuff.
What's that robot behind you?
Oh, you mean that green and purple one right there?
Yeah.
That's Scorponok. Yeah, that's the Earthrise Titan class Scorponok figure.
You rearranged. It seems like you rearranged your room a bit since the last time we seen you.
This shelf right here, it was in this corner before, but it was facing the other way. It was like this side was facing forward like that. Because I rotated it around, and I put you probably can't even see it.
Don't strain your camera. We'll have much as we'll have more
all
fun
of
as
these right
possible.
here, they're on top of a smaller
Mm.
bookcase that has some books and some anime on it.
Mm.
Because that bookcase behind it was right over here against this wall here, but I moved it to that side behind me. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I did. Yeah. So this is the UK Titan Comics release of the Generation 2 comic. Now, this contains the 12 issues of the comic itself, except the issue 0. It doesn't have that for some reason. And it doesn't have the it also doesn't have at the end of issue 2 of the Generation 2 comic, the issue 0 was reprinted and added to the last 7 pages of issue 2. And this trade right here removes those last 7 pages. So issue 0 is just not in this whatsoever. So no matter where you look, there is going to be incomplete content when it comes to Transformers. And it seems to be just an unavoidable thing. And it's very frustrating and irritating. And also, this trade, for some reason, has the cover for issue 3. I'm also going to point out the comic. This comic right here is issue 2, but they've put the cover of issue 3 in the middle of issue 2 for some reason. And I'm pretty sure they also have the cover of issue 1. Instead of it being at the very beginning of issue 1, they have it like a couple pages in, and then they have the cover of issue 2 be right at a couple pages before the end of issue 1. I have no idea why this was organized this way. It's very strange and confusing. There is also the Definitive G1 collection did also collect the G2 comic. It also collected the issues of G.I. Joe that lead up to G2 as well. Here's some more terrible 90s art that I love so much. Oh yeah, Wolf, do you remember the Vok from Beast Wars?
I definitely do.
Yeah. Did you know that this Generation 2 comic here actually has it's not necessarily explicitly stated in the G2 comic, but their origin stems from this G2 comic. Because the Beast Wars doesn't draw specifically from the Marvel comic or the Sunbow cartoon. It's kind of a mix of the two. Although the Collector's Cup would later establish the cartoon to being in the G1 cartoon continuity.
I don't remember if the Valk ever scared the crap out of me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
The way how they were designed, like a mixture of a T-1000 and the Terminator without the endoskeleton, without the exo skin.
Yeah, there's actually multiple instances of different Transformers characters or different elements kind of swapping over from like one universe to another.
See you later, Rhett. He had to take off.
Ah, okay. Wait, did he?
Yeah,
I'm seeing multiple messages in the private chat. Did he say something there?
Yeah, he's taking off.
Yeah. Let's move that there. Yeah, another thing that, in keeping with the content being absurdly difficult to get a hold of. This is one page of the Beast War Tales from the Beast Wars comic from BotCon 1997, I think. Yeah, 1997. You can't get a physical copy of this. The only reason I have this is because I found an image of the page online and then printed it off. The only reason I only have one page is because my printer screwed up and I couldn't print off any other pages. But yeah, so I was planning on showing like the actual like multiple pages, but because I was only able to print off the one page, that's literally the only page. Like the first page is literally all I got. I am planning to print off the other pages, so I at least have a physical copy of some of the Collectors Club and BotCon comics.
All right.
Yeah, there is also I think the only instance of cartoons being unavailable is the 2001 cartoon and the Beast War, the Japanese Beast Wars animes. Beast Wars Second, Beast Wars Neo. For whatever reason, those two cartoons just have no physical release whatsoever outside of Japan. And the Car Robots cartoon, for some reason, only DVD copies were released here in the UK. There was no American release of that cartoon for some reason. Or at the very least, you can actually get hold of a DVD copy of Robots in Disguise or the 2001 Robots in Disguise. You just have to import it from here to over to America.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Outside of that, I think most of the other cartoons are available. Actually, the only exception would be the 2015 Robots in Disguise, because Shout Factory was putting out DVDs of that show a couple years ago, and for some reason they didn't actually release all of that show. They kind of stopped halfway through and then just didn't put out anymore. Yeah, for some reason, Shout Factory, when they got the license for Transformers, they kind of went Transformers crazy in terms of releasing DVDs, because they were like, we have the license. Here's Transformers Armada, Energon, Cybertron. Here's some animated. Here's Beast Wars again. Here's an updated version of the G1 cartoon. Here's the 3 seasons of Prime and the movie. Here are a bunch of Robots in Disguise, or the 2015 Robots in Disguise DVDs. You're like, you know what? Let's not finish that. Let's leave that where it is. It's like, I don't know why they did that. If I were Shout Factory, I would have just released all of the 2015 Robots in Disguise rather than stopping halfway through.
Any final words on this before we start wrapping things up?
No, not much. Not anything else I can immediately think of.
What about you, Leia?
No, I like I said, I'm not as knowledgeable, but I've enjoyed listening to Matthew's passion for the Transformers. So it's been a fun conversation. And hopefully the next Transformers film will be good. But for myself, well, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm really curious as to who's going to direct it, because I know Bay's not going to touch on it. I think Bay's already washed his hands of it.
I think if you go to IMDb, I think the director of Rise of the Beast, I think he's listed there.
Yeah.
I don't think I've actually looked at what other films he's directed, to kind of get some kind of perspective on what his Transformers movie will be like. Although now I think about it, looking at his previous films won't necessarily be like a 100% guarantee to like give an idea of what his film will be like.
Ron Perlman's going to be in it.
Yeah, I think he's voicing Optimus Primal.
The Land, Creed 2, A Different Tree. That's about it. Wait, there's more.
Did any of those give you any kind of perspective on like what you think his film might be like?
Not a damn clue.
Have you watched any of those films that other films he directed?
Nope. I've seen
Do
Creed 2 though. Here I thought Ryan Coogler directed that one. No wonder it was so different. Somewhat.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. I just remembered that that Hasbro is actually has recently been putting out a sub line of Transformers for like a sub line for Shattered Glass, because originally that was a collectors club concept, but then but then like after the collectors club, after they lost the rights for Transformers and they weren't making any more stories, Shattered Glass as a concept just sort of stayed with them for a while and only occasionally made appearances in other media. Like I think the fourth season of Transformers Animated was intended to have an episode themed around Shattered Glass, and then obviously Hasbro come out with a new Shattered Glass toy line.
I
They
got
are
one for you guys.
they
I
are
have
being
summoned
kind.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
I have summoned you here for a purpose. Nobody summons Megatron. Then it pleases me to be the first. State your business. This is my command. You are to destroy the Autobot matrix of leadership. It is the one, the only thing that can stand in my way. You have nothing to fear. I have already crushed Optimus Prime with my bare hands. You exaggerate. The point is, he's dead, and the Matrix died with him. Not my best Unicron voice.
Yeah, it's an okay impression of Unicron.
It sounds good.
Why should I? What's in it for me? Your bargaining posture is highly dubious. But very well. I will provide you with a new body and new troops to command. And nothing. You belong to me now. I belong to nobody. Perhaps I misjudged you. Proceed on your way to oblivion. No! No! I accept your terms! I accept! Excellent. Anyways, guys, I thank you for all being here. Those 8, 9, 10 of you, and those 9s, just the motherfuckers that kept popping in and out. I thank everybody for contributing to the stream, and thank you personally, Matthew Flynn, for sharing us again with your love of the Transformers. Sorry that most of us on this panel wasn't able to contribute to what you were saying, Matthew. Transformers
Yeah,
is definitely one to be hard to get everybody in. I mean, there's a lot of us
yeah,
Transformers fans out there, definitely.
yeah,
But to actually talk extensively, like find anybody who are willing to talk extensively about, not the ones that are mostly familiar with the Bayformers series. No, no, no. I'm talking about everything that is Transformers, from the animes to the animated series to even the Americanized animated series like Beast Wars and onward. You
and
know,
and all the various comic book series that have been put out.
to the '86 movie, definitely. Like more, a lot
Yeah,
of people are very familiar with that, but it's like you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who's willing to sit down and talk to you. You know,
yeah. I mean,
but
Transformers is the one Hasbro franchise that's kind of taken off in the mainstream, like aside separate from the others. You know, like with GI Joe, that one they've tried multiple times to bring that to the mainstream, but it just isn't working. I think it's more of the fact that something like GI Joe is very specifically like on the focusing on like an American military type, or kind of focusing on characters or American military officers of varying jobs and roles, where Transformers is a lot more varied and adaptable.
why indeed? Anyways, I'd like to thank everybody here. The lovely Leia Valor, Leia plus size.
All right, everybody, this is Leia Plus Size, your lovely lady of valor. I have enjoyed this discussion of Transformers, and I've enjoyed listening to Matthew share his passion for the Transformers franchise and mythology. And I look forward to Matthew returning with some other, whether it be Transformers or any other franchise or mythology that we may not be aware of. And thanks everyone for joining us in the chat again. If you have a suggestion of what you would like to hear us discuss, or any passions you want us to share or want us to read about, because you know how crazy we can get, please leave it in your comments below. Thank you for joining us, and have a good weekend, and see you again next week.
The Warrior of Light, Final Fantasy Fan 12.
Well, this has actually been quite an interesting stream, if I'm going to be honest myself. There's not much of a Transformers fan. But anyways, that about does it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like what you saw, click like and subscribe and share with your family and friends. And make sure you ring that notification bell. That way you get notified of our latest videos. Go subscribe to Wolf10 Media if you haven't already. Go subscribe to me if you haven't already. And also subscribe to Matthew Flynn if you haven't already. And once again, thank you guys so much for watching. This is Final Fantasy Fan 12 signing off. And remember, may the light forever shine upon us.
The Gladiator of Kaon, Matthew Flynn.
Oh crap! I forgot. Damn it! I forgot my outro. It's been a while, and also because Matchstick streams, I haven't really been doing my outro there anyway. So
You got so used to it, huh?
yeah.
Can you remember it?
No, I can't. I can't.
Well, then just say bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye.
The Gladiator of Kaon, everybody. Forgot his usual outro. Right.
Matthew.
Oh, don't beat yourself up over
Yeah,
it.
Well,
Yeah.
you usually end on the Matrix, right?
It happens. We forget. It'll come to you.
If I recall correctly, you usually ended on the Matrix. Let the Matrix guide you or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's something like that.
But anyways, this has been your Welcome at Wolf 10. Tune in on Monday, where if the stars align, if I'm off that day, or at the end of the day, hopefully I don't cross over into Ishii's time slot. I'm gonna do a brief stream about my time in my 2-week vacation. I think that needs to be serious addressing. Of course, one thing I must address. Sorry, we weren't able to stream our Gunsmith Cats anime spotlight on Tuesday. We were all out of it. So next week we'll be doing Tekken Blade, but the week after that we will soldier on to do our Gunsmith Cats anime spotlight. So we had to postpone that stream. Everybody was having an off situation. So, and even then, I was free off too myself. So sorry about that, guys. I know you guys were looking forward to a Tuesday stream every Tuesday, but that day we just had to just shut down and recharge the batteries. But I wasn't going to skip on this stream because I promised Matthew we were going to do this Thursday stream, and I had to commit. We had to commit to this. So thank you everybody for being here. Reminder once again, you guys are the UN Space Sea. Welcome to the Wolf Fleet. And oh wow, there's so much to scroll down. Okay, this.
Jesus. Amen, Jesus. Amen, Jesus. Let me get something straight, Rev. Some Jew gets nailed to a cross like, I don't know, 1,000 who gives a shit years ago. And he's gonna be the magic pill that pulls all of us scumbags to happiness, freedom.
Yes, it will, my brother.
Wow. Wow. You know what God gave me, brother? You know what sets me free?